She didn't just stop loving you. She stopped seeing you. And that distinction, that tiny, devastating difference, is the thing that most men spend years, sometimes entire lifetimes, never understanding. They replay the ending like a film reel. The last conversation, the last argument, the last moment things felt normal. They look for the mistake, the wrong word, the wrong move, the specific moment everything shifted. But here is what I need you to understand right now, before anything else. She didn't lose interest because of a moment. She lost interest because of a pattern. A slow, quiet, invisible erosion that began long before she said the words, or sent the text, or went cold, or stopped making eye contact the way she used to. And the most painful part? Most of the time, the pattern was built from things that looked like love, things that felt like devotion, things you did because you genuinely cared about her. And somehow, mysteriously, those very things are what pushed her away. If you have ever felt a woman go cold on you and had no idea why, if you have ever been told, "I just don't feel it anymore," and felt like the floor dropped out from under you, if you have ever loved someone and watched them slowly become a stranger while you stood there doing everything you thought was right, then this video is going to change the way you understand attraction forever. Stay with me, because what I am about to share is not comfortable, but it is true. And the truth, right now, is exactly what you need. There is a woman named Esther Perel who has spent over 3 decades studying what makes people stay attracted to each other and what makes that attraction die. She is a psychotherapist, a best-selling author, and one of the most watched TED speakers on the planet. Her book, Mating in Captivity, and her talk, The Secret to Desire in a Long-Term Relationship, have reached tens of millions of people worldwide. And the reason her work resonates so deeply, the reason people cry watching her speak, is because she names things that people feel but cannot articulate. One of the most important things Perel has ever said is this: love is about having, desire is about wanting, and you cannot want what you already have. Read that again, because it is the key to everything. Most men, when they enter a relationship or pursue a woman seriously, shift unconsciously into a mode of securing, of having. They invest, they commit, they make her feel chosen, and all of that is right and good. But in doing so, without realizing it, they remove the one ingredient that desire cannot survive without: space, mystery, the sense that this person exists independently of you, that they have a life, a fire, a direction that does not require your presence to burn. Perel says that desire requires distance, not emotional distance, not coldness or withdrawal, but the psychological distance that comes from two people who are whole on their own, who choose each other without needing each other to function. The moment one person becomes so available, so merged, so completely woven into the other's daily experience that there is no longer any sense of discovery, desire begins to suffocate. And most men don't even realize they're doing it. They think they are being a good partner. They think availability equals love. They think the more present they are, the more she will want them. But Perel's research, drawn from thousands of couples across cultures and continents, shows something far more complicated and far more confronting. The qualities that create security in a relationship and the qualities that create desire are often in direct tension with each other. And most men choose security, consciously or not, and then cannot understand why she stopped wanting them. Let me paint you a picture, and I want you to be honest with yourself as you listen to it. You meet her. The early stages are electric. You have your own life. You're busy. You have goals. You have opinions. You have energy that isn't directed at her. You are slightly unpredictable, not in a chaotic way, but in the way that a man who is genuinely living his own life is always slightly unpredictable, because his time and attention are valuable and not automatically given. She has to earn moments with you, not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely have somewhere to be, something to build, something that matters to you beyond her. And that specific energy is intoxicating. Then things progress. She becomes more important to you. And here is where the invisible slide begins. You start making yourself more available. You cancel plans because she's free. You stop talking about your goals as much. You want to be present, not distracted. You start measuring your texts. You start thinking about her response before you've even finished your thought. You start building your schedule around hers. Your friends hear from you less. The project you were working on moves slower. The gym becomes less consistent. And you feel noble about all of this because you were told by every romantic story you've ever consumed that this is what love looks like. This is the sacrifice. This is the proof. But Esther Perel would stop you right there and say, you have just traded the thing she was attracted to for the thing you think she should want. And those two things are not the same. She was attracted to the man who had somewhere to be. She is now living with a man who has nowhere to be except wherever she is. Here is a truth that will sting before it heals. When a woman loses interest, it is almost never about another man. It is almost never about something you said. It is almost never about a single event. It is about a feeling that crept in so slowly she almost didn't notice it herself. A feeling that the man she was with had gradually become someone she no longer fully recognized. Not because you changed dramatically, but because you dimmed, you shrank. You made yourself so thoroughly available, so completely accommodating, so utterly without friction, that she stopped feeling like she was with a man and started feeling like she was managing a very devoted companion. Perel talks about this in terms of what she calls the mystery of the other. In the beginning of any attraction, the other person is genuinely unknown to you. They are separate. They have an interior life you are discovering. That discovery, that ongoing sense of, I don't fully know this person yet, is one of the primary engines of desire. The problem is that most men, in an effort to be a good partner, give everything away. Every thought, every feeling, every fear, every hope, poured out in the belief that total transparency equals intimacy. And while emotional openness has its place in a deep relationship, there is a version of it that is not actually openness. It is anxiety. It is the anxious need to make sure she knows everything about you, so she cannot leave you for something she didn't know. That anxiety, that emotional flooding, does not create intimacy. It creates a ceiling. She now knows everything. There is nothing left to discover. And desire without discovery is just routine. Now, I want to talk about something that operates beneath all of this. Something that is harder to face, but more important to understand. When a man starts losing himself in a relationship, when he starts making her approval the weather that determines how his day goes, he is not just becoming less attractive. He is becoming less of himself. And she can feel that loss at a level that precedes language. Think about who she fell for. That man had edges. He had opinions he would defend. He had things he cared about that had nothing to do with her. He had a sense of direction that made her feel like she was choosing to be part of something. Not that she was being waited for, depended upon, made responsible for someone else's emotional state. The man who loses himself in a relationship transfers a weight onto the woman that she never agreed to carry. He makes her responsible unconsciously for his happiness, his confidence, his sense of value, and that weight does not feel like love. It feels like burden, and eventually, it feels like resentment. Perel uses a phrase that I want you to sit with: emotional caretaking as a substitute for self-development. What she means is that some men, without knowing it, pour all their energy into managing the relationship, managing her feelings, being endlessly sensitive and accommodating, not from genuine strength and love, but as a way of avoiding the harder work of developing themselves. It is easier to focus on her than to face the thing you've been avoiding in your own life. And the tragic irony is that the man doing this the most, the man most obsessed with keeping her happy, is often the most difficult man to stay attracted to, because his entire emotional economy has been outsourced to her response. He is not a man with a life. He is a man waiting to find out how he feels based on how she feels. Let me tell you about two men, both in the same situation. 6 months into something real, with a woman they genuinely cared about. The relationship had moved past the early electricity and into something deeper and more daily. The first man, call him Andre, responded to this shift by doubling down on effort. More texts, more plans made around her availability, more conversations about the relationship itself. Where it was going, what she was feeling, were they good? He thought this attentiveness was what a serious man did. He was building something real, and he wanted her to know it. The second man, call him Ethan, responded differently, not with distance, not with coldness, but with a quiet, firm return to himself. He kept his training consistent. He went back to the project he'd been building before she came along. He kept time with his friends. When he was with her, he was fully present, engaged, warm, genuinely interested. But when he wasn't with her, he was living his life, not waiting, not checking his phone every 20 minutes, not building his day around her schedule. Andre's woman started pulling back around month 4. She told him she needed space. She said she felt overwhelmed, which confused him completely, because all he had done was show up for her. Ethan's woman found herself increasingly drawn in, not because he was playing games, but because he remained someone she was still discovering. His life was still happening. He was still growing. Being with him still felt like a choice she was making, not an obligation she had drifted into. The difference between Andre and Ethan was not personality. It was not looks or charm or status. It was self-possession. Ethan remained his own man, and that, in Perel's language, maintained the distance that desire requires. Here is the next piece of this, and it connects to something Esther Perel says that I think is one of the most important insights in all of relationship psychology. She says, "The most erotic thing is attention, but not all attention is equal. The attention of a needy man, constant, anxious, approval-seeking, does not feel like desire to a woman. It feels like demand, even when it comes wrapped in kindness, in generosity, in genuine care, because underneath the kindness, she can feel the question that is always being asked. Do you still want me? Am I enough? Are we okay?" And that question, asked again and again through behavior, through availability, through the subtle ways a man adjusts himself to her mood, slowly erodes the dynamic that made attraction possible in the first place. The attention of a confident man is completely different. It is selective. It is present without being consuming. When he looks at her, she feels seen, not monitored. When he makes time for her, she feels chosen, not obligated. When he expresses affection, she feels wanted, not needed. That difference between being wanted and being needed is one of the most important distinctions in understanding why women lose interest. Being needed feels heavy. Being wanted feels electric. And the man who needs a woman to function has removed himself from the category of wanted and placed himself firmly in the category of needed, which is the death of attraction. Now, let's talk about something practical, because I know some of you are watching this and thinking, okay, I recognize myself in this. I've done these things. Maybe I'm doing them right now. What do I actually change? The first thing to understand is that the solution is not to become cold. It is not to withdraw affection, to play games, to manufacture distance artificially. Pearl is very clear on this, and so am I. The solution is not performance. It is not strategy. It is a return to self. The question you need to ask yourself, honestly, without the filter of what you think you should answer, is this. Who were you before she became the most important thing in your life? What were you building? What did your mornings look like when they were governed by your own purpose rather than the possibility of her plans? What did you think about, talk about, care about when your mental and emotional energy wasn't primarily directed at managing this relationship? That man, the one who existed before he outsourced his direction to her presence, is the man she was attracted to. And getting back to him is not about strategy. It is about integrity. It is about the commitment to your own life that no relationship should ever fully override. Pearl writes about this as the return to self, the conscious, disciplined act of reclaiming your own interior life, your own goals, your own standards, your own sense of forward motion, not as a rejection of the relationship, but as the foundation that makes the relationship worth having. A man who is actively building something, who has genuine direction, genuine ambition, genuine investment in his own growth, is a man who brings something to a relationship rather than taking from it. He offers presence from abundance, not from need. And that shift, from scarcity to abundance, from need to choice, changes the entire emotional texture of how a woman experiences him. Let me go deeper into something that Pearl addresses in Mating in Captivity that most men have never considered. She writes about the concept of togetherness as a slow erosion of desire, not because togetherness is bad, but because the modern idea of the ideal relationship, two people completely merged, best friends, always together, fully transparent, always available, is actually working against the very thing that sustains long-term attraction. She uses the metaphor of fire and oxygen. Fire needs oxygen to burn. But if you smother it, if you give it too much of even the thing it needs, it goes out. And what smothers desire in a relationship is often the relentless pursuit of closeness, without any corresponding respect for separateness. The couples Pearl has worked with who maintain genuine desire after years together share one consistent quality. They have preserved their individuality. They have lives that exist alongside the relationship, not instead of it, but alongside it. They have interests, friendships, ambitions, and private worlds that are genuinely their own. And when they come together, there is still something to bring to the table, still something to share that the other person doesn't already know, still a version of the other person that is slightly unknown, and therefore still capable of being desired. This is not advice to be emotionally unavailable. It is advice to be genuinely full, to have enough happening in your own life that you are interesting to yourself, and therefore to her. To be the kind of man who, when he walks away from a conversation with his partner, is going somewhere real, not just back to the couch and the phone, somewhere that is his. I need to address something here that some men will resist, and I understand why, because it goes against a story we've been told our entire lives. The story is this: if you love someone enough, and you show it clearly enough, they will love you back the same way. Consistency plus devotion plus sacrifice equals lasting attraction. That story is beautiful. It is also wrong, not because love doesn't matter, but because attraction operates by different rules than love does. A woman can love a man deeply and genuinely and still lose attraction for him. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, and the man who doesn't understand that distinction will spend years doing all the right things for love and wondering why it doesn't translate into the thing he actually wants, which is desire, which is her choosing him fully every day, not from obligation but from genuine wanting. Esther Perel puts it this way: we want our partner to be our best friend, our confidant, our co-parent, our financial partner, our travel companion, and our passionate lover. And we think all of this is compatible. But some of these roles actually work against each other. The man who becomes too comfortable, too known, too available, too merged, has succeeded at friendship and failed at mystery. And while friendship is the foundation of a real relationship, desire requires something beyond friendship. It requires the continued sense that this person is still, in some ways, slightly beyond you. That there is still more to know, still more to earn, still a version of them that surprises you. You cannot surprise someone who has mapped every corner of you. And a man with no unexplored territory is a man whose partner has stopped reaching for him. Let me talk now about something that happens after interest is lost, because this is where men make their second critical mistake, the one that makes everything worse. She goes cold, or she says she needs space, or she ends things, and the man, feeling the loss like a physical pain, does the only thing that feels available to him in that moment. He tries harder. More messages, more effort, more declarations of feeling, more attempts to have the conversation that will fix it, to find the words that will bring her back, to demonstrate in even more elaborate ways how much she means to him. And every single one of those moves, every one without exception, accelerates the end, because what she has already felt, the weight of being needed, the claustrophobia of too much closeness, the loss of the man she was originally attracted to, is confirmed and intensified by everything he does to get her back. The chasing tells her he still doesn't understand. He still doesn't have himself. He still needs me to tell him he's okay. And that need, even more clearly visible in the desperation of loss than it was in the routines of the relationship, makes her more certain, not less, that her feeling was right. Perel talks about this as the panic response, the moment when a man who has been operating from emotional scarcity loses even the small amount he had, and the scarcity becomes total, visible, unmistakable. And it is in that moment of total exposure that most men guarantee the outcome they were desperately trying to avoid. The hardest and most important thing a man can do when he feels someone pulling away is to return to himself, to stop the momentum of chasing, to get quiet, not out of strategy, not as a manipulation to make her miss him, but as a genuine act of self-respect, to say inwardly, I cannot make someone feel what they don't feel. What I can do is be the man I need to be for my own life, regardless of what she decides. That act, the act of letting go without collapsing, is one of the most powerful demonstrations of masculine strength that exists. And whether it brings her back or not is beside the point. What it does is restore something far more valuable than any relationship: your own self-possession. There is a moment in Perel's famous TED Talk where she pauses and says something that has stayed with millions of people who've heard it. She says, "Tell me how you were loved, and I'll tell you how you love." What she means is that the patterns we bring to relationships are almost always older than the relationships themselves. The neediness, the anxiety, the desperate need for approval. These did not begin with the woman who just left. They began somewhere much earlier, in a childhood where love felt conditional, in an early experience of abandonment or rejection that left a wound that never fully healed, in a belief, installed long before you were old enough to question it, that you are only enough if someone is choosing you. I'm not saying this to send you to therapy. Although that conversation is worth having, I'm saying it Because the man who understands where his patterns come from has a choice that the man who doesn't understand does not have. He can see the pattern for what it is, an old wound expressing itself through present behavior, and make a different decision. The decision to stop seeking from a woman what you needed to receive as a child. The decision to build your own sense of worth from the inside, from your habits, your integrity, your kept promises to yourself, rather than from the outside, from her attention, her approval, her continued presence. That decision is not made once. It is made every day. In the moment you want to send the message you know you shouldn't send. In the moment you want to check her social media for the 14th time. In the moment you feel the anxiety of uncertainty and reach for reassurance rather than sitting with the discomfort and letting it pass. Every time you make that decision, the decision to return to yourself rather than chase outward, you are building a different kind of man, a man who is genuinely attractive, not because he has learned a technique, but because he has developed a self worth staying for. Now, I want to give you something you can carry out of this video today, because insight without action is just entertainment, and you did not come here to be entertained. You came here because something in you knows that you are capable of more, and that your relationships reflect, more honestly than almost anything else, who you currently are. The first thing is to stop abandoning yourself in the name of love. Whatever you have been giving up, your training, your goals, your time with people who challenge you, the project you were building. Go back to it, not as a strategy to seem more attractive, as an act of integrity, because your life belongs to you, and the most attractive version of you is the version that is living it fully. The second thing is to develop genuine tolerance for uncertainty in relationships. The anxiety that drives most of the unattractive behaviors, the over-texting, the constant check-ins, the need for reassurance, comes from an inability to sit with not knowing, practicing that tolerance, learning to be okay when things are undefined, when she's quiet, when the future is unclear, is one of the most important emotional skills a man can build. And it is built through discipline, through the same muscle you build by sitting with discomfort in any other area of your life. The third thing, and this one is drawn directly from Perel's work, is to cultivate your own inner life so actively that you become genuinely interesting to yourself. Read, create, build, learn, travel, think, have conversations that challenge you, develop opinions that are truly yours. Because a man who is interesting to himself is interesting to others, including to the woman he loves, in a way that no amount of effort or availability can manufacture.